you go back through and you find stats that maybe you glossed over the first time, or there's just a lot of stats to go through, especially somebody like you. And in baseball, you played so much, so things can get lost in the shuffle. But one thing I always talk about with former players, and I talk about even like this year's Gamecocks baseball team, is like that adjustment to the SEC, right? Like the SEC level, it's the best conference in college baseball. I think it has been for many, many years. I don't think there's any debate. Bro, that did not phase you at all, because I was going back through and your stats in conference games. And again, you were a 303 career hitter. Dude, your stats in conference games, though. 2006, you hit, and this is not a small sample size. You played, you had 94 ABs in SEC play in 06, 115 in 07, 106 in 08, and 144 in 09. So I want to give people an idea. Like, this is not like you had 10 at bats. Like, you had a very large sample size. 2006, you hit 383 in SEC play. 07, you hit 322. 08, you hit 311. And in 2009, you hit 333. That's an SEC play. Like, yeah. What clicked for you where you just torched the best pitching? Because, again, you're going against draft guys every weekend when you're playing in the SEC.
Right. I didn't know that. So I'm glad you told me. Honestly, my first year, it was like I closed my eyes and then I opened my eyes and it was done. I mean, it was honestly like an out of body experience. I just was in the zone, man. I can tell you this. When we played in high school, we weren't just your normal 2A, 3A school that's going to play some rinky-dink conference.
Right.
We travel. We've traveled to California and playing the best 6 teams in the nation, and we smoked teams 13 to 3. Mm-hmm. You know, so leading up to, I would guess, leading up to SEC play, I had seen people throw in 95, 96. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I didn't. You know, freshman year they had a closure for Georgia throwing 100. I hadn't seen that. But I had seen a regular dose of 90 plus.
Right.
And I think with a little bit of strength that I had developed, I had always had a knack for hitting the ball. Since I was little, I'd always had a knack for putting the bat on the ball. It might not have been a hit every time, but I made contact the majority of the time. So I never had an issue with hitting balls. So I don't know, man. That's amazing for you to even bring up. I didn't know that. And that's some pretty good stuff in SEC, I will say.
Yeah, I was just looking. Like I said, it had the breakdown of your stats in conference play, and I was like, my God, that is tearing up some very quality pitching.
Yes.
I want to ask you, Drew, because, again, I think it's almost a bit of a shame that, I think the era from 06 to 09, there's a YouTube account. There's this YouTube page or whatever I love looking at. They have a ton of old baseball games from like the early 2000s, 05, obviously 2010, 11, 12, all that good stuff. But I feel like that era from like 06 to 09 is forgotten. And I think you could argue those were maybe the most talented teams to ever suit up, at least on the hitting side. Because I remember the last time I had you on, I think we both agreed that in all due respect to those guys, but the pitching and the bullpen is what let South Carolina down in that era. And it was really when you got the Matt Prices and the Jose Matas and the John Taylors. And like, that's what turned the page for Carolina and why they had that run of success in 10, 11, 12, all that good stuff. But for you specifically, and obviously we posted the clip a few days ago, or, literally yesterday of, you were a part of the 5 straight home runs against Georgia. You were the 4th of 5. And again, you played with guys like Justin Smoke and Phil Disher and James Darnell and Reese Havens and Robbie Grindstaff and Murderers Row. I mean, I don't think there's been a lineup that good in Columbia. Then yourself, of course. I don't think there's been a lineup that good in Columbia. I think you guys might still hold the record for home runs in the season. I think at least for SEC teams. Just an absurd amount of bombs. But just talk about being a hitter in that lineup, because that had to make you feel good. I'm sure you were very well protected. You know, like pitchers had to pick their poison. It's like, okay, if you want to, you're going to put him on, you're going to pitch around him. You want to come after me, that's totally fine. Like, I'll take you yard too. So just talk about being a hitter in that lineup, because I feel like the mentality just had to be, you're telling the pitchers, like, bro, we're going to go do our thing. Like, you hold them to 5 or less. We got you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we would even say 9. Hold on, at least hold on.
Single digits.
we're going to score at least 10. Yeah. I mean, I think stats show that. I mean, the times that we were beat in the Super Regional, they were very high scoring games.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact because we hit very well. I mean, that was one of the things. Like you said, Murderers Row. I mean, you couldn't get past a person that wasn't good at hitting. So I guess to hit on your first part, when I say this, whenever you get into athletics and you have a person on the team that's better than you, you always raise your level to meet or exceed theirs. Yeah. So when you have someone like this, like I was playing second base and we had first, short, and third, all first rounders, right? I couldn't be bad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to look well on me. So I have to pick my game up. Now I did have injuries, which
were you battling later. Travis Jones during that time? Because he played a lot of second too.
Yeah, he
or was he before you?
When Travis Jones came, that was, I think, Wingo's first year, maybe not. No, it wasn't.
Jones was a baller. Now Jones was good.
Yes, Travis Jones was the man. He defensively he was good, but offensively he was amazing. That year actually was my second year, and I was center field, I believe. Yeah, I played center field that entire year. But yes, I would come in and play second base. Whenever Tanner would pinch hit or do whatever he had to do, I would come in and play infield. But no, there was no battle between Travis Jones and I. He was absolutely the second baseman. Yeah. But I mean, it was amazing, man. I mean, I look back at now and it's like I can't even believe that I was even in the middle of those guys. You know what I mean? Like little old me. Like Eminem, you know what I mean? Little old me. I mean, how was I in the middle? I don't know. It's just a perfect mix of time and doing well, and the coaches believing in you. And it was absolutely amazing, man, to experience, and I will always cherish that. But to be in the middle of those guys that bashed, you're right. I was set up pretty good, dude, because they would walk them and they would come straight to me and they'd have to pitch to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, they got to pitch to me.
Yeah. So I had, your lineup is stacked when you think of your typical power hitters, like your catcher, your first baseman, your outfield, but like when your second baseman and shortstop are hitting bombs, that's absurd.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. And like sitting back talking to you right now about it, you don't realize it while you're in it because you're just playing the game. You're just feeling what you're doing. But now, man, it's very sad feeling, and it's very a rewarding feeling at the same time. But it's a sad feeling for me that we didn't see Omaha because those teams shouldn't. There's no reason at all that we should not have went 3 years, at least 3 years. Yeah. But yeah, it was an amazing time for Gamecock sports.
Now I want to ask you a question, Drew, because I think was 2009 the year they went to BB Core, or was that 2010? When they changed the bats.
Remind me what BB Core was.
When they changed the bats, when they deadened the bats, basically.
No, that was 2011. 2010, I think.
That's right.
But 2011, I think, is when they went to the BB Core.
I got you. Well, you're obviously familiar with it. I've had this debate with people because some people say that they love to put an asterisk and say like, oh, well, the bats were hot. Like, how do you think that lineup would have fared with today's bats, for example? Because I look at it and say, well, look at all those dudes. They went and played in the minors or the big leagues and hit with wood. Like, what difference does it make? So,
yeah. I think that's ridiculous to even. I mean, you you can't say that just because the shoes Michael Jordan wore that he would have. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You can swing it. You can swing it like
a hitter. I mean, you may be able to take off a couple of home runs,
right?
That may have scraped by or hit the top of the fence, but the vast majority of those home runs, if anybody knows Gamecock, they were not wall scrapers, brother. They were going pine trees. So. Yeah. Regardless of what we were using, I do believe that the numbers would have been there regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you about this story, by the way, because I think from the last time we talked. I'm a Justin Smoke guy, like big fan of Justin Smoke. That was like the first Gamecock baseball player I really remember watching. And obviously he had a decorated career, and I would argue maybe probably the best hitter to ever come through Columbia. But Phil Disher told me a funny story about Justin Smoke that I don't remember exactly what year it was, but you would have been there. And he said, like, I think Smoke had like 20 home runs, but like 14 of them or something were in the midweek, and they joked with him he was the SoCon player of the year. Do you recall that story at all?
Yeah. Phil Disher is a character, brother. I'm telling you right now, man. The bus rides were an event in themselves. Yeah. The bus rides.
That's the best memories, man. Those bus rides are the best memories.
Dude, we didn't play in the we had a couple of flights, but we didn't play in the charter years. We rode on buses, and we rode in. I remember one time we went to LSU, and we had like a concert bus, 2 of them, and they're sleeper buses. And oh my goodness, man, I won't even go into that, but the things that happen in those bus rides alone can be they're just awesome, man. But yes, I do remember them trying to say that he was the SoCon player of the year or player of the week. But regardless, that's ridiculous. The guy hit home runs, whoever. I remember him hitting one off of David Price that I 11 years later, I don't think it's landed. And that was at Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? So he regardless, and the same goes for Disher. I mean, he hit home runs that I've never seen a human being ever hit in my life. But those were good times.